Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Sloppy Lab. I'm JT Russell, and with me tonight is Quick Draw 345. Ooh, if you're wondering what happened to that 7, it's probably on top of your deck, but that's okay. That's okay. Tonight only, that's okay. Welcome, Quick Draw. Welcome back. Season 2,
Hey,
let's go.
let's go. Season 2. We are refreshed. We had the 3 interlude episodes the last 6 weeks or so, and really happy to get back into it.
Super happy to get back into it. The interludes were a lot of fun. Um, uh, I had no idea what to do with my every other Tuesday night. It was just like, what am I doing with myself right now?
Work, take care of kids.
Yeah,
I'm sure you could find some things to do.
there were things, but the routine's good. The routine's good, and getting back to it, we've got a semi-replenished backlog, we'll say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's not get too used to the routine again, though, because I will be out next week already. So um, let's not get too comfortable here.
Well, sloppy is the name of the game. We'll figure something out. But yeah, it was fun. It was fun to take the interludes. It was good to spend some time on some other things related to the cast, and I learned some fun stuff about audio things, which I'm not an audio engineer. None of us are audio engineers. And I won one like really quick, boring story that I will bore you with because I'm talking right now. And it was we tried out some intro music to the cast on one of the interludes, and I was listening to it and it sounded great. It sounded like, oh, this sounds awesome. Everybody's gonna love it. And then I put out the episode, pulled it down my podcatcher, slapped it in the car. It's like, all right, let's hear the intro music. It's like, this sounds terrible.
Well, stay sloppy is what they say.
Stay sloppy. Yeah.
I did nothing remotely productive for this production over the last 6 weeks. So you gave it a good effort.
An A for effort. What can I say? So if you're listening to this one and you thought the intro music sounded terrible, it's probably because you listen at a speed other than 1.0x. Because this is a weird thing that I had not considered, that obviously people listen to podcasts and other things at different speeds, and I don't know, the intro music just sounded really weird at the speed that I listen to podcasts at. So fun.
I'm not a big podcast listener. I have listened to some at like 1.25, 1.5 before. I've discovered that you have a very, everyone always talks about how good of a voice you have. If you listen to this podcast at a slower rate, like 0.5, your voice just gets like next level. Everyone, you're listening at home, give it a shot next time.
Nice.
JT at slow motion is a treat.
Is the smooth jazz bottom of the Beaker episodes.
It's not quite the vibe, but if you listen to it, I think people will understand why I enjoy it so much.
Okay, we'll give it a listen. Yeah, my when I was in high school many moons ago, I had a theater instructor who said, "Hey man, you're a nice kid, but you're never gonna make it on the stage. just give up, pack it up." But now I got a microphone.
My dad told me I had a face for radio.
Well, you're a brave man for putting the mug on the screen. You're looking good.
Yeah, there you go.
Looking good. And welcome to the chat, folks. A Data Forge stream, Azok, and congratulations on your performance at Vegas. Very, very excited. And Murph too. Welcome. I love seeing the folks rolling on the chat. Yeah.
I have to admit, I followed very little of the action in Las Vegas. I heard some of the highlights, and I am very aware of the relevance to tonight's topic with one of the things that happened in the Alliance event. We'll talk about that in a bit. But yeah, and Nova won again.
Nova won again.
Shock. I did hear that.
Hats off to Nova.
That's incredible.
Yeah, really, really commend the repeated performance and the consistency, especially in a game that we acknowledge has some degree of variance to it. And I always say that I like more than one win will will respect like multiple top cut appearances, but multiple wins is kind of the next thing entirely. So
Yes,
that's
it's
impressive.
insane.
Yeah.
We've had an episode before where we talked about like what is the meta in Keyforge, and we were kind of like, it's not really a meta. You kind of like can expect certain things, but I can tell you for certain that if you are playing in another major event, a Vault Tour World Championship, where Nova's going to be there, you sure as heck better bring a deck that can beat Jacques or that can at least compete with it. So she has almost single-handedly changed my mind about like what the Keyforge meta is.
Hmm. Interesting. Interesting. I don't know if I'd go that far. I think I'd say it's in my mind like that it's a deck that's out there and that it's really good. And I've been on a kick lately where I'm really wanting to see hard artifact control. So seeing that deck perform so well repeatedly is I don't know, humbling and enlightening. But yeah, yeah, I don't know. I guess if it's for one deck, if it's not super well represented elsewhere, what that deck's doing, I'd probably say I'll take my one loss and not sacrifice percentages against the rest of the field. But I don't know. I don't know. Hard to say.
It's definitely in my mind. You know, I
I will say
I mean, I got
too.
to get.
Sorry, I will say too that I faced that deck, Jacques, against a lot of folks who are not Nova on TCO and have not had much trouble in those matches. And I've faced Nova on TCO playing that deck and have had a lot of trouble in those
I
matches.
I don't know how many times you've played her with it, but I watched one of those and I was thinking like, oh man, yeah, you can actually pull this off. And then just methodical, like perfect execution of archives and purging. It was just, it's you can tell it's a very technical deck.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Incredibly like skill forward. Um, and like you saw with the difference in different people playing it and the difference in the result, yeah, it's not unsurprising.
Not surprising. So that's cool. That's cool to see. But we are not here for the recap of the Vault Tour. Although I think DataForge stream may have that teed up later this week. Perhaps was teased somewhere. I would think so. Tune into that. I certainly will. Um, what are we here to talk about? What's our big
Yeah,
splashy we're back topic? Quick draw.
we're back for season two, and we're doing more of our favorite topic, which is a double-sided artifact. And as the season one fans know, we are pretty liberal with the interpretation of double-sided, and we're gonna stretch that a little bit more tonight. We're gonna talk about Near Future Lens, the anomaly ultra rare artifact from Winds of Exchange. You have opened a really cool one. We'll talk about that in a bit. But it is an artifact where you play and your entire deck is played face up the entire time that it's out. And it has an Omni ability: play the top card of your deck as if it belonged to the active house and was in your hand. Um, so it was a kind of not controversial, but kind of a polarizing card when it was first spoiled. Opinions of it were kind of all over the map, which I found very interesting. And so we've had a little bit of time to play with it. You especially have. I've played, I think, just one. It was all I could handle. I'll talk about why in a minute. But it's a very interesting card, and so let's just tackle the hard hitting question first. Why is this a double sided artifact?
Why is it a double sided artifact? You just read off the ability. It's not symmetric. It is double edged. It has a benefit to both players, though, and I think we can hang our hat on that for its double-sidedness. So the big downside to this card, right, is the information granted to your opponent when it's in play. As soon as it's in play, they're going to see at least every card that goes from your deck to hand or to token or to archives, right? Pretty much everything that touches the top of your deck's going to be flashed to your opponent, and that's especially I don't know, information leaky on something like TCO, where not only is it shown, but it's kind of live forever in the log, right? So it gets
Yeah,
called out in the logs. It's there, and that's not nothing. Like having essentially perfect knowledge of what's in your opponent's hand or at their disposal one way or another from that point in the game forward is significant. Is significant.
it is. Yeah, and I wanted to play with it just to kind of see how much that makes an impact. And you and I played a game last week with the two decks that you're showing on stream right now. One of them is one that you own, called I Williams, the Nexus Moderator,
Mm-hmm.
and one that I don't own one, so I had to find one randomly, and I just decided to pick one that was listed for sale at least, give it a shot, and I chose to try out Abrielle Colony Gauntlet. Each of these is slightly different. So they have different kind of synergies, different things that you're looking for. They do both have a warrior, just coincidentally. Um, but I think in our game we played, we learned a lot just in a single game playing with this card. We did some little manual mode cheating to get these cards out early, just to kind of get the full effect on it, and a little house rule to not allow you to auction off the near future lens, because this was for science after all. Um, if it were not for science, I would have conceded far earlier. Uh, I will say that the game was very, very tiring. We played for probably 45 minutes, and the amount of like brain power to think about everything that that it's in their hand, what are tokens, what's coming. It was pretty exhausting, to be honest. And I think part of that was being on TCO, where you had to constantly scroll up and see the logs, especially even to see like what was currently on top of your deck.
Mm.
Um, I even had a case where I thought something was on top of my deck, and I played it, and it was something completely different because I missed something that happened to remove it, or something like that. So it was, yeah, it was very mentally taxing to play. Um, but I think it also has a very high skill ceiling to play with it as well.
Yeah, definitely high skill ceiling, and I agree with you on the taxing element, mental taxing element. I mean, I think this is actually kind of a peek into what the perfect information games like chess. I don't know how that kind of maps onto Keyforge. Um, it feels really bad to lose to something that you should know exists, like to lose to a trick that you should know there, right? Like as soon as the Rant and Arrive flips on top of your deck and goes into your hand, um, I'm kind of feel obligated to like respect it for the rest of the game. Not to say that I could choose. I could certainly choose to go above 8 or go above 7, knowing that you've got it. But it was going to feel really bad if I don't notice that it was called out in the logs, right? So I feel obligated to really, really follow every single card that gets flipped over, and I think that's more taxing online, or at least with the interface what we've got on TCO, than it would be, say, in real life, right? Like if you were doing this IRL and just showing me cards as they went, I'd say yeah, and I'd take kind of note. But having that log kind of there indefinitely, I think adds to the feeling that I've got this information and I really should take advantage of having it, and not just kind of YOLO things, which I might if it was TCO had implemented it in a different way where it just kind of flashes on the screen or something. But we could touch on whether that's practical or not. But I think the experience that we had playing online was probably more taxing than it would have felt if we had matched up IRL for the same two decks.
That may be true. So I got to watch a bit of the clip from this weekend when Dave C was playing his Alliance deck with the Near Future lens. He had two Near Future lenses actually, which is uh, obviously you're only revealing one card still, but it allows you to play two in a turn.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but the big trick with his was a Legacy Make It So, which let him draw the entire deck. And the reason I bring this up now is because we're talking about scrolling back up to see the logs. But props to Dave. What he did in this game is he just left his hand open.
Yeah.
And as he was drawing cards, he would just kind of leave it there face up. And he had a few of them that his opponent did not know, and he kept those face down. So he kind of did it in a very sportsmanlike way that was like, I'm not going to make you memorize everything. Here it is. It's all out there. Like let's not go with any kind of gamesmanship. Um, but yeah, so it depends on how you want to play it. And that was feature match at a Voltor. Was that? I think it was that top cut.
It may have been. I wasn't able to follow the coverage kind
Yeah,
of in real
maybe it
time.
was day one. But regardless, like I don't know. I think someone said on stream something about like you wouldn't see that kind of behavior at a Magic tournament where um, you're just being very sportsmanlike and open, and just be like, okay, look, like this is obviously like a difficult thing to track, and so let's just make it easy on ourselves here, and just there's the whole hand. Um,
Hmm.
if you're playing with it, you don't have to do that. in real life. I wouldn't think less of you if you did not do that. Um, it's just kind of a, I don't know. We've talked about memory before, and that's one of the skills that this tests, I think. But I think there's definitely more to it than that, with like how you're managing your deck and how you're finding the right cards that you want. I think there's a lot more depth that goes into this card.
Yeah, totally. And a interesting question from the clog in the chat. Should we exclude when you drop the end of the turn, and if would that make things less exhausting? Mix in a little bit of hidden information to take a chip out of the mental burden. I don't know. I think that takes maybe maybe that boosts the card, tunes the card a little bit more than you'd want. But it'd be interesting to test. I do think that, I didn't realize that Dave had done that. And Dave's a stand-up guy for sure. I think that should probably just be how it is on TCO. Like, I think as soon as a card's revealed and put into your hand, let's just leave it face up. And
Yeah.
we're already, yeah.
No, sorry. That just reminded me. Instead on TCO, it actually creates bugs where your entire deck is face down, so you can't look at your deck and see what's in there. If you're playing on TCO with this, just know what you're getting into. There are bugs galore. It is very difficult to follow. And this is not a knock on TCO. I don't mean to be
Oh yeah, for
something so
sure.
negative about it. It's just very hard to implement and very hard to play with the card on TCO.
Yeah, and I know at the end, especially I don't want to read too much into it, but I would much rather get the Winds of Exchange implementation out there sooner with bugs than hold things back till it was perfect.
Yeah,
So
for sure.
1000%.
Especially for an anomaly.
Especially for an anomaly. Like, I'm sure there are lots of folks. I'm not sure there are lots of folks listening, but I'm sure there are lots of folks listening who have never played with this card at all. I mean, there was that your very first game experience with this game when we played with this card when we played the other day.
Yeah.
So interesting. Yeah, I've played a number of games with it, but a single deck with it. It's fortunately fairly competitive. But if not for that, I would not have played very many games at all with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the arc on the card is 6. It has on decks of Keyforge they give it an 8 for efficiency and a -2 for other, just for the information given away. And I mentioned earlier that the evaluations originally were kind of all over the map. I actually saw one person who is, I believe, if I'm remembering correctly, is a person who is known to listen and tune in every once in a while. I think they said that was the worst card in the game.
Wow, that's bold.
I don't remember the exact words, so I'm not going to say who that was. Maybe they'll out themselves. But really, like the downside of giving away full information about your hand for the rest of the game to them was such a negative downside. It did not make up for the Omni play Wild Wormhole. I don't know. I mean, I don't think I have as strong of feelings. I felt that it was a very strong card. I don't think I believed it was the best card in the game. I still probably don't, but it's very powerful. I will say that.
Yeah. So a total or a net arc of 6. That's Eaton's Jar, right? That's lateral shift. Is that right? Lateral shift might be even more. I'm not sure.
I would put both of those cards above it.
Yeah, I think Eaton's Jar comes in at 6. I think Punctuated Equilibrium is usually right around that. I don't know. I'm off the top of my head. I think I'd usually want an Eaton's Jar over. I mean, having relatively limited experience with Neutral Lens, I think I'd usually want the Eaton's Jar. But there are absolutely decks that are going to prefer the Near Future Lens. I think the one that we're looking at right now, the one that I was playing with, Williams, will prefer to have the Near Future Lens, and that's partly because it's packed with cards that reward you for its ability and that take advantage of the capability that it offers. In particular, right, there's lots of ways to draw cards, right? So there's this the ever mysterious puzzling trinket. We were actually just talking about this card on the Sanctimonious Discord not long ago. What's a good kind of default rule for when you should draw versus take the amber. And this deck will absolutely draw not as a default necessarily, but it will draw with those. It will convert those amber pips into draw pips just to put a different card on top. If you don't want to play the one that you're currently looking at. So it's a little bit like draw one now, and maybe you're setting up for a big turn in that house next. And also get one you can play right away, regardless of house,
Yeah,
fresh on the top, which is huge, huge.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, the trinket is huge. That's like one of the first things that I noticed in our game is like how powerful. I mean, it's already a great card, but how much better it got with the near future lens was very noticeable. Um, I've somehow only opened one puzzling trinket in literally about 80 decks.
Hmm.
It's just how I roll with my opening of deck, my skills with opening. Um, but I don't think I've ever played with it, but I've played against it a lot, and I see a lot of people using it for the draw and just saying like, ah, dang, didn't get anything. And I'm like,
Hmm.
I would have rather taken that amber, like almost every time. You were talking about the discussion in Sanctimonious about it. If it were me, unless I had better knowledge, I would almost always take the Amber Pip over the draw. Um, obviously you may want to consider capture and damage, but in this deck you have that information about what you're going to draw, which is just such a bigger advantage for the reasons you stated, but also kind of freeing up what else is going to come to play. And there's lots of ways in Williams, and there's lots of ways, obviously, in Winds of Exchange to kind of cycle that, including making tokens.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, making tokens is the other big one, right? So not only does the draw get you a fresh near future lens candidate, it also can shift up what gets tokenized. So maybe you want to protect something from being tokenized, but also just tokenization in general is a great way to put a fresh card on top of your deck. And if you've got lots of repeatable token makers, that can be very potent with near future lens. So this one has a couple higher ons, has the Brobnar one, which is the press gang, right? Press gang. Yep. So those are great. Do use those very much in tandem with the near future lens to coordinate what gets on top of the deck. You've also got a few others like Stratosmack, Brawl In, that can come down at action speed, if you will, to shift up the top card. And so find myself very often, doing those, and it's potent. I think this deck gets a lot of mileage of the new future lens. I would say I think I prefer the anomaly to the jar here, though I probably will most often take the jar. But yeah, a lot of tools to shift up that top card, and that's really really cool to see it come together.
Yeah, that is definitely cool. When you always open these really unique decks, we were talking about this before the show. You have a knack for these like weird combos of like rares and uncommons to just like come together, or double rares. Um, you're very good at this. You should just start opening my decks for me.
I could. I don't open necessarily the strongest decks, but some quirky combos for sure. Yeah, yeah. This one's been fun. Been fun to play with. I will say too, it's been putting up good numbers just against kind of randos. Um,
Like me.
TCO actually. So this is a great point. The game that we played, it was a long game. It was maybe a 45-minute game. We spent a lot of time scrolling through the logs, trying to figure things out, and make sure we weren't, blundering the position or what have you. But I've played against a lot of, just quick join matches on TCO random, TCO competitive, to see what happens with this deck, and it's done well. But I think it's done well in large part because many of my opponents just aren't up for being that sweaty in the moment, right? They're like, it's going to be a lot of effort to figure out everything that's in your hand, and folks will walk into things. They'll befuddle me into the house that I've got 5 cards of, just because they weren't kind of keeping track, that sort of a thing. And so I think in that scenario where things are maybe a little bit more casual or a little bit more loose, it takes even more of a notch up in power level, just because people are really not trying to punish you with that information that they're getting. So it's been a little bit hard, I guess, to judge its strength in with those as data points. But I mean,
Yeah,
yeah.
that is interesting because if you're testing a near future lens deck for, a Vault Tour, for example, um, often you're just going to want to jam a bunch of games, as many games as you can on TCO, but you also want to have like targeted practice because for this reason, like this card in particular, like you said, you're not going to you're not going to get as good of a test because people I think play fast and loose in casual games, or I don't mean like casual queue. I just mean like if you jump into a game on TCO and there's no stakes, I sometimes don't even look at the full list until like partway through the game. Um, and so that is exacerbated with near future lens where you're not really getting a true assessment of the card for that reason. So it's good to test it with some friends in very controlled environments. We could say like, look, just pay attention to everything in my hand, make sure you're aware of it, maybe even play with your hand exposed and just kind of show it to them in a video chat or something, like just to kind of simulate what's going on and make sure that they understand. um, I always like to practice under basically like the worst circumstances.
Mm-hmm.
Always assume that my opponent is the best player. Always assume they're going to make the right decisions. And so if you're practicing to try to get better with the deck or to understand if the deck is good enough for you, you really shouldn't, you shouldn't be nitpicking and you shouldn't be like, you know, not be willing to give them the information that they rightfully have because you should be assuming that they're going to know this already and they're going to be using it correctly.
Mm-hmm. Totally, totally. Yeah, I wish there was a way to kind of just play with hands revealed, or play with hands open, a toggle. But it would be maybe an acknowledgement or a nod to the difference between online play versus IRL play. I mean, I do think that part of the point of this card is like, hey, they might forget. Like you'll show them, but then you'll draw it and they might forget. And that's kind of like, it's a near future lens. It's not a far future lens. So I can't see, well, I guess near future would be like all the cards you're going to draw for the rest of the game,
Yeah.
as opposed to, it's not a past lens. It's not a past
It's not a
lens.
past lens,
It's not a
right?
past lens. There we go. Metaphors come together. But
There
yeah,
you go.
part of the point of this card is they might forget things. So, if we're sitting around with our beer and pretzels, like that's it. You're sitting there like, oh, I can't remember if it was before the shuffle or last. These things happen. But yeah, it makes it interesting to evaluate, or difficult to evaluate, if you're trying to
Yeah.
size it up for a competitive event, say. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right. So besides the puzzling trinket, besides the token makers, is there anything else that you look for as synergy with the near future lens?
Anything I look for with synergy? I'm looking at things that can change my top card. And we mentioned the token generations. We made it generators. We mentioned the drawing, whether that's draw pips or things like puzzling trinket. I think also cards like Adult Swim or Maelstrom are kind of interesting to consider, especially if you're often working with a smaller board. Um, Being able to replay a creature with a good play, if it's your only one, and then you can stick it back on top, is cool, is neat. But I think the big ones are really those repeating token generators, the draw pips. Those are kind of the standouts for me, at least that I've come across with I. Williams. And certainly if you're able to find yourself a nice legacy draw your deck combo, then more power to you.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
certainly helps to look for. Um, we played that game that was like the mirror match with it, and it really kind of like made us think about certain things in a different way. Like not just what are you looking for in a deck with NFL, but what are you looking for in your own deck if you go up against someone else's near future lens? And I think we learned a lot about that. Like we definitely changed our behavior quite a lot in that game. You already mentioned the rant and rive. Like as soon as I draw the rant and rive, you have full information about like the Ember control that I have available to me. You knew to stop at 7. You knew that I had no other way to do anything about that, and that you were safe because you had that full information. Um, but you also had a befuddle in your deck, and so this isn't specific to I Williams, having the near future lens. But if you're playing against a near future lens, having something like a befuddle or control the weak is so much better. And I would, especially if I'm playing against like a double or triple befuddle or control the weak deck, I might think twice about even playing the near future lens at all.
Yeah, I did have a befuddle in I. Williams, and there were turns where, I got to play it, and either that or the Illusions of Grandeur, and there wasn't any guessing. There wasn't any guessing.
No,
It
they hit hard every time.
hit hard, really hard every time. Yeah. So it's interesting.
Yeah.
I think there's also a point in the game, a turn where you're not going to get enough value to justify the information loss. What do you think of that? Like, if you draw this in the end game, maybe we're turn 8, 9, I don't know, of what's shaping up to be a 12 turn game. Do you still play it if you're drawing that out and you're kind of playing a game of chicken with your opponent?
Do you mean do I still play
The near
the near
future
future lens?
lens, yeah,
I mean, it's going to totally depend on the game, but
yeah.
like uh, a lot of control the weak decks and befuddle decks, they will rely on just that burst to check for key three and make sure that it's locked in. Um, if you're playing a deck that only has amber control in one house, it may be less impactful because the control the weak and the befuddle can take you off that house anyway, and
Mm-hmm.
they're going to know without any information besides your deck list that they got it wrapped up. But if you're playing a more versatile deck that does have capture pips or it has amber control of various kinds in other houses, then I might think twice, because then like they're really getting the extra information that they need to turn that befuddle into like a guaranteed key, like a key cheat, as some people describe them.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah. Key safe is the word, maybe.
Key safe. Okay, yeah,
Key safe.
that's the sloppy term for that.
That's what the kids are saying, you know.
All of the people younger than us,
That's those are the kids.
those are the kids. Um, there were a few other interactions in our game that I thought were neat. You had two belligerent guards in your deck,
Mm-hmm.
um, knowing full well what card I was going to draw. I don't think you would ever discard the belligerent card, but it was kind of nice to know like exactly what card they're drawing, especially if it was one like perhaps you know that my hand has no Brobnar in it, and you see a Rant and Rive on top, and you're like, well, you can draw that Rant and Rive. I'm going to go to 8, and if you want to basically do nothing this turn but play Rant and Rive, you know, do your worst. It's fine. So the belligerent guard kind of created some interesting interactions with it
Mm.
when you're playing against it. Um, and then the other one that we found very interesting was the Sybil Waymare.
Yes. Yes.
Um,
Yes.
now, I'm not sure if you know this, but Sybil actually did not give you any new information in that game. And the reason is because every time I play against Sybil, it always exhausts all of my creatures. So you didn't really need that help to know that. It was just going to happen anyway.
The real benefit was now I knew whether it was going to exhaust my creatures too, because we overlapped in houses, you know.
It's true. Yeah. We both had Robnar and Unfathomable in these decks. And it
Yep,
did hit yourself a couple times.
it did.
Um,
It did. Um, the Sybil was really interesting with near future lens for sure, and doubly so with my belligerent guards, because with the Sybil out, I might see a card on top of your deck that I don't want you to discard with Sybil, and can forcibly change that up with belligerent guard, which happened once or twice. I don't think that's
it's
going to be
true.
a terribly common interaction, but it was cool to note. Some cards that let you manipulate your opponent's top card can be relevant for sure, for sure.
Yeah. So this was the only game that I played with it. Those were some neat interactions. I'm sure there's a ton more. Um, Catch and release ended up being pretty impactful in this match. I had two, you had one in yours,
Mm-hmm.
and like having information about board wipes or creature control like that, I think definitely changed the game as well. Um, Either if you see that I could play a catch and release from deck, or if I had one in my hand, it obviously changes um, how many creatures you're going to put down. Like those random discards that come. I think catch and release in particular is like way worse than you know just a gateway to dis or just a regular board wipe because it is disruption to go along with it.
You mean getting hit with it is way worse than getting hit with one of the others?
Yeah, I mean, like if you are up against a let me think how to. I got to get my frame of reference right because we both had it in this match. Um, if your opponent has a near future lens and you see that they are drawing the catch and release, uh, you definitely want to think twice about playing creatures. You may discard them because of the disruption that catch and release specifically gives over something like just a regular board wipe, which I said gateway to dis, but obviously you can't play gateway to dis in Winds of Exchange unless you have a really sweet Legacy Maverick. Um, But there's lots of other board wipes that will just destroy creatures, which doesn't really punish you for playing them. It
Mm-hmm.
just gets rid of them. Catch and the Release will actually punish you if you just like drop down a bunch of creatures and they play it against you.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. Having, I think the two real big kind of like, ooh, you should probably play around me cards were the Catch and Release and the Rant and Rive. And I will say that the Rant and Rive felt super nerfed. Felt super nerfed. And the comment from before about, ooh, maybe this might be one of the worst cards in the game, may have come from someone who likes playing a lot of cards that or decks that are setting up the sting or setting up a not
Too
the
much to
sting.
protect.
Yeah, not the sting in the card, but a heist as it were. So if you're setting up for a big play that you would prefer your opponent not to know is coming, this is really really going to hurt you more so than other decks. I Williams has this thing going for it where it kind of just wants to make a bunch of warriors and play some disruption cards, go for value, right? There's no hey I got you card in the deck really. But yeah, if your deck's chock full of Rant and Rives and are too much to protect and graphs, and you are needing to maneuver your opponent into a certain position, I guess not graphs are too much to protect, but though cards like those, then you're going to be hurting a lot more or feeling the hurt a lot more from that information loss. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. The disruption against the near future lens also is, like disruption's very good in general, but like Abyssal Sight, you already know what's in there. You already know if you need to play it. You might know if you can hold it. We talked about Lateral Shift as another contender for best card in the game. Like you already know what's in their hand
Mm-hmm.
and whether or not you want to hold on to that Lateral Shift for a more impactful turn. You'll have that information. Um, and then Talent Scout, same reason. These kind of things like disruption is, I think, the best part about Winds of Exchange. And if your opponent has the near future lens, your disruption, I think, gets even better.
Mm. Yeah, I'm not going to disagree with you. Not going to disagree with you. At least not right now. We'll save it for the episode on disruption. I don't know.
That would be a good one. We'll have B-Hawk on for that one.
Definitely. But yeah, I definitely felt like the befuddles, the illusions were supercharged. It felt like the Rant and Rives were nerfed, kind of as you'd expect, and made for some very interesting mind games around catch and release. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Well, if we do end up playing a game with near future lens this evening, I it is going to be too late for me to play a mirror match again. Um, like I said, that was very mentally taxing. I might fall asleep on camera if we have to do that, just from like my old age and processing that many different things at one time. It's a good way to make sure I'm ready to go to bed.
There you go. There you go. And I'm gonna help my win rate in season 2. Get it off to the right good start.
We'll see if we can turn things around.
Yeah.
Season one win rate for me was pretty embarrassing.
We'll have to tally it up and get a final count. But hey, we had a
Yeah.
good question in the chat that I wanted to circle back to too. From the Cloggin. How do you feel about near future lens in a sealed environment versus Archon?
Ooh, that is a good question. Sealed obviously being that you can't see your opponent's list normally, and you are just giving them full information. That's a great question. Um, I would probably like it less in sealed. I think having that total secret information. But
Hmm.
like outside of like the rant and rive and maybe closed door negotiation, um, and maybe some disruption, like there's not really as much in this set, in my opinion, that you're trying to hide, like
Hmm.
a TMTP would in older sets. Um, if you had a way of like if we just like did a little thought experiment, if New Future Lens were an anomaly in Worlds Collide, and you had a deck with TMTP, and you're playing a sealed game, and you have that, and you don't want them to know about it, you're not playing that Near Future Lens.
Hmm.
I don't think so.
If you haven't drawn the TMTP already, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, perhaps not.
and
Perhaps
it's
not.
different in Winds of Exchange because I don't think there's anything as impactful to keep secret as a TMTP in this set.
It's interesting in Seal 2, right? Knowing that the TMTP might out there, you are probably not playing around it, probably getting bitten with it. Um, once you see it, there's some value gain, but are you going to chain yourself for the rest of the game with this TMTP, with them knowing you have it, so that they'll moderate their bursts? Yeah, it definitely depends. It's a tricky one. It's a really good question. I don't have
Yeah.
a great answer. I will say that I
I,
tend to play in sealed a lot of decks that like doing sneakier things. um, but I'm inclined to say that you're probably better off just getting more cards played.
mm,
Generally, generally,
yeah.
no.
I think that's why the value of it on DOK is where it is. Like they value playing a new card every single turn over your opponent knowing what's in your hand.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and like you get to a certain point through your deck, and your opponent's got a pretty good idea of what's in your hand anyway. So part of the game, like when you have an empty deck, they know what's in there already. So like they already have that information in some cases. So um, yeah, I mean, I think in general, it's a very strong card. I don't think it's as bad as maybe some thought, and that person is either not watching or they have not outed themselves. Maybe they take back their hot take about it being one of the worst cards in the game. I don't know.
I think it's a hot take worthy card. I've definitely gone up and down on it myself. The efficiency of 8, it felt like I was moving very quickly. I moved with it very quickly in Williams. But gosh, so what are you assuming? There's a 16 turn game and you're typically finding it halfway through, and so you're getting 8 extra
Uh,
plays out of it. Is
I
that where we get
think
the efficiency
it.
score?
I believe the DOK assumes 10 turn games,
Assumes
and
10 turn games.
it assumes that you find it halfway through.
So
So
so how do we get to an efficiency of 8 then? If you're getting 5 extra plays, four or 5 extra plays?
I think so. Playing a new card that's not in your hand, I guess that comes out to about almost two.
Almost 2, more than that. Yeah, I guess it's better than drawing a card, certainly. And
Yeah.
Wild Wormhole, what does Wild Wormhole give you for efficiency? Ooh, good question. Now we're just playing efficiency 0 to 2 on Wild Wormhole. Okay, interesting. So that makes a
So
little bit more sense then.
yeah, it's going to depend on the dangerous random plays.
Mm-hmm.
But with the near future lens, if you see a dangerous random play on top, you're just probably not going to play it, or you'll you know make sure that you're okay with playing that Maelstrom at the time that you do that.
Yeah, live dangerously. And there's something to be said too for you getting to plan, knowing that card you're going to draw, right? So it's not just your opponent seeing what you're getting and having that information, but it's also you getting to make your house choices and planning out your turns with the knowledge of what you're going to draw next. So there is a boost there that we should, you know,
Yeah,
not ignore.
it's not traditional efficiency, but yeah, it's definitely part of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I'd say so.
more more effective, if not efficient, turns over the course of the game. It's a small bonus, but it's something.
Yeah. So I think the 8 is reasonable. You
Okay.
know.
Yeah, I was thinking not before, but it's making more sense. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So super cool, super cool.
I I do have an idea for something to play against a near future lens deck that we
Okay.
haven't didn't have a chance to try for science beforehand, so we can do it for science after.
All right, it sounds like we have a matchup brewing. I'm going to play Williams, the Nexus moderator, and Quick Draw is going to try and get off the season with a win with his deck that was handpicked to
Gonna
face it.
handpick a deck to win. That's the only way I can beat you on stream. No, I don't even. It's more. I don't even know which deck I'm gonna play yet. There's just a specific interaction that I'm gonna look for. So I gotta search through my decks and see if I have that interaction that I'm looking for, just to kind of see what happens.
Okay, right on. I dig it. I dig it.
Well, I have nothing else to add, and we did have another question in the chat that is not related to near future lens. So if you have
Mm.
nothing else on near future lens, we can address that question.
We can. Let's go. I think I'm good. I think I'm good on near future lens for the moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're gonna see enough of it in a long, dragged out game right after this. Autoencoder versus near future, perfect info from the Cloganets. That's one option I could go with. Maybe I'll keep that in mind. Um, question we had from Data for Stream was, how did the Polish contingent of Sloppy Lab Work do in Polish nationals?
Yeah. There were no World Championship invites handed out this past weekend to our sloppy lab workers there. They did well across the main event and second amber. But yeah, no victories to take home yet. Good showing. A lot of very strong players. A lot of actual NKFL regulars showing up there too. But yeah, we saw a lot of fixtures. Looked like a lot of fun.
It did.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Jealous. Wish I could have
jealous.
been there.
Totally.
Crusader and Not Tonight were paired up, I think, in round
Round
or three.
two or three, but
Maybe it
yeah,
was three.
it might have been three. So unfortunately, only one of them can emerge from that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was rough. That was rough, and yeah, they have another shot though. They're both heading to Florence this coming weekend.
That's right.
So
Yeah.
we'll get to cheer them then.
That's
And
going to be fun.
it's gonna be fun, and I think that's gonna be streamed as well. So I'll be curious to see if we can catch any of those. And it's
Yes.
yeah,
I was going to say Team GG, I think, is streaming it.
Team GG and
Yeah.
not Ghost Galaxy, but Team GG, the Italian team, and it's a large event. It's shaping up to be a large event. It looks like.
Yeah. I don't know the numbers, but I would not be surprised if it's the biggest fall tour of the year.
I would not be surprised either. I think their pre-registrations are well over 100. Does that lock it in? Have we had a vault tour over 100 yet? With
I think Philly was the biggest one, if
right,
I'm not mistaken, and it was 98 for Archon
98 for Archon.
and I think 18 for Alliance.
Yep.
So technically over 100, but
But they're over 100 for Archon alone, I believe.
yeah.
Yeah. Oh, it's GG. Oh, the Cloggin, you're helping them out with that? I didn't realize that. Awesome. So that's
about
Team
that?
GG and the
There we go.
Cloggin doing that event. Unless I'm misreading the
Wait,
chat. I could be misreading the
the
chat.
Cloggin, are you gonna be in Florence this weekend? I'm very curious about that.
That would be sweet. We'll look for you on stream.
I'm not sure
So
how else he would help stream if he wasn't there.
that'd be dope.
Magic? That would be
Magic.
really cool.
Cloggin's a magical person for sure. Yeah, way over 100.
Yeah.
They're gonna get a good turnout. There's gonna be a lot of folks, some very spicy competition. But hey, my money's still on our Polish lab workers. So let's see how we do.
No, in the background. Okay, sorry. Maybe next year, Cloggin, you can go to Florence. I'll try to go to Florence next year. It sounds fun.
Florence would be fun. I'm a few years from being able to justify that without it being a family trip.
You could schedule a squash tournament over there, maybe.
I could. Well, I don't think we do anything with. I don't know. I'm due for some of the Nordic countries, but I don't know if I could swing. Well, we'll see. Maybe. Well, cool. Well, this has been good. This has been fun. Should we switch gears, play a game maybe in a little bit here?
Let's do it. Yeah,
All
let's
right.
do it.
Well, new season, new sponsors. I am excited to tell you about our very first sponsor for season 2, and it's very apropos, for the Keyforge in Florence. So I'm gonna just kind of go through the little blurb that they sent on over from their corporate headquarters to our sloppy lab, right to our sloppy PO box. So are you tired of bland, ordinary French fries that leave your taste buds bored and your cravings unsatisfied? Well, you've got to try Killigog's French fries, and here's why. Killigog's French fries are made using a secret, otherworldly blend of herbs and spices collected from the far reaches of the crucible. They're 100% calorie-free and won't last long at this depth counter. Try some today. So thank you very much, Killigog's French fries from the Killigog's Trench, I'm sure, but delicious. They sent some over too. I tried them out. Awesome. And wow, I have to see if I can remember all the things. You know, folks, we record Sloppy Lab Work live right here at twitch.tv/Sloppy Lab Work every Tuesday evening, 9:30 Eastern Time is our start. You can find recordings of our past episodes and other streams over at youtube.com. Search for @SloppyLabrook over there. And for the very best content, 34? No, 57 times, distilled and straight from the bottom of the beaker. Enter that very phrase in your podcatcher of choice, and we'll be there right on top of the deck, staring up at you, face up, ready to go. Quick Draw, got anything to say to the folks getting off the last audio stop?
Welcome to season 2, everybody. Thanks for listening. Stay sloppy.
Stay sloppy. Right on. All right. That was fun. Welcome back, everybody. Even sloppier than before.
We spent 6 weeks trying to find ways to get sloppier than ever.
Yeah, I think it may have been 8 weeks because it's kind of the signpost thing.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah. All right.
So, I was trying to look for the deck that I wanted. So what I'm looking for is a Borrow or Snecklifter.
Oh, yeah.
And the only one I had that has 2 copies of that is a very sad Dark Tidings deck, which I've never played before, and I'm not going to play that. So I'll survive with just 1 copy, and I'll play a deck that I really do enjoy playing. I haven't played it in a while, so I'm going to give that one a shot. So look out for the Borrow. Let's just say that.
Yeah, that's phrasing. I gotta work on my phrasing in the chat, but yeah, I think
wow.
I think I just have to. I think I have to just play into the Borrow for science. So we're gonna pretend that I'm not a bad player and just going for it anyway for science. Yeah.
And we are not going to manual mode this time.
Not going to manual mode. And if you want to keep the stream open once the lens is down and we're kind of full info mode on the hand, we could do that if it makes it easier.
Yeah. Because I've never looked at your hand before during streams.
Right? I'm sure. I'm sure. Yeah, it's probably your mistake, assuming that I make good plays, seeing my hand, and then assuming I'm going to play well, given that.
I sure hope that I don't look at your hand during streams, because I still can't win. So that would be very bad for me if I did that, in a lot of ways. I'll make a game. Let's go Crusader style.
Oh, I got to turn on the beginner. Okay. All right.
And this is a deck I haven't played in a while, but it's always one that I really liked. It's got some of my favorite stuff. It's not perfect, but it's a fun one.
Keeping this hand, obviously. Mulligan for that Borrow. Quick Draw. I'm telling you right now, mulligan for that Borrow.
Yeah, I think I'm going to. I don't love this one. Okay. Not great.
That's Quick Draw's got a good poker face.
Start off with the best creature in the game.
Hey, that is a creature in the game. It's a creature
now in stereo. Now in stereo would be very disappointed in you right now.
Hey, I don't think it's. I think it's gained a lot of value since its original printing. Can we say that? I
mean,
cool.
Everyone wants to ignore Taunt and Elusive. Like, what else do you want in this game?
Well, you've got a Niffleape, I've got a Suzanne, and a Near Future Lens, and I showed you Shockherder, Kilogog's Trench, and Pound. Pound currently still on top.
Pound on top. Okay.
Pound on top.
Pound does. All right. Yeah, I'm not getting sweaty at all right now. I have no idea what is in there. So, yeah, how do you like that Nexus?
That Nexus is kind of interesting.
It is interesting, isn't it? I didn't actually realize this deck had a Nexus until now.
That's cool, and gives me. I have some options. I could kill the Nexus. Do I kill the Nexus?
Where's the fun in that?
That's what I say too. Okay, we're gonna leave the Nexus. You can do your worst. But quick draw. It's going to cost you if you want to Nexus now. So Illusions of Grandeur, 3 for me unless you go Untamed. I'm going to burn this Crushing Deep. And, I kind of like Kilogog's Trench. So we're going to play it. We're going to play it.
Playing the pound, okay.
Playing the pound. Playing the pound with your Future Lens, and then I'm revealing Dragnet, Puzzling Trinket, Shattered Throne, which is still on top of my deck.
Okay. It's a good thing I have this support here. Why don't you play creatures? What's up with that?
Nope. Only artifacts for you to steal. Only artifacts for you to steal.
Yeah,
Giving me some monies. Got some monies for me.
I've had some really bad hands here. That mulligan was, I needed a mulligan, but it didn't get any better. Well, let's let's just go. Let's see if we can go fast here.
Cool. I'll take the Ember. And good question from the chat. Nexus plays the top card of the controller's deck, not the owner's deck. So I'm assuming if you Nexus it, it'll be as though you were controlling the Near Future Lens, and it'll play the top card of your deck, not mine.
Drew an awful card. That's terrible.
Ooh, City State. Cool. Chant of Hubris coming down. Nice. Okay, we're chanting. Humbles that Niffle-Ape. And then it's going to succumb to the Ides. Dang.
Yeah. Terrible hand again. Unbelievable.
Yeah. I haven't played any of the new adventures yet. I've been meaning to play the newest one.
The Gormengeist. I've been meaning to play it as well, but I have not.
Yeah, and my oldest daughter has been super curious about Keyforge, and I keep meaning, I don't know. I still think it's maybe a little early, but I'm like I'm itching to try out an adventure with her.
I can't believe you have a child eager to play Keyforge, and you're just like, I just haven't got around to it yet.
It's not that I haven't gotten around to it. I'm like, I don't want to push it before she's like really ready to enjoy it, because then I feel like there could be this like there's this like in between ground where she's like, I'm curious, but then you try it and you're like, oh, this kind of sucked. Like I don't want that to be the first reaction, All right. All this table talk, and I've forgotten what's on top of the deck. Okay, Shattered Throne.
That's all part of the plan.
All part of the plan.
Does your daughter know that you're Keyforge famous?
Not Keyforge famous though. I don't know. Yeah, she knows that we do the podcast and the streaming thing, and I think she has like no idea what that means.
She will one day.
She knows that I have a lot of Keyforge stuff. Okay, I still have to decide on what to play. I'm just gonna go Brobner. I could wait for that. I could wait for the Trench to gobble up your Nexus, but we're gonna take care of it now.
Oh, come on.
Yeah, Shattered Throne comes down via the Lens. Creechy could be good here. Cretchy. But man, I am gonna be really sad with it in Shattered Throne. So Volca comes down, Shockherder as well to fight and trade with Ludo and smash that Nexus with splash damage. Okay, cool. And I'm showing you Mass Buyout, the Visible Hand, Catch and Release on top.
Okay.
Hey, where's my monies? Where's my monies? All right, well, more good targets for you to borrow. There's a Puzzling Trinket.
Man, Puzzling Trinket with Amphora.
That would be really cool. All right, what was on top? Catch and Release. Are we playing Catch and Release? No. We're not playing Catch and Release. We're going to tokenize catch and release, as well as brawl in. So we got Bumpsy on top. I don't hate that. I definitely ordered this poorly, but okay. Mass buyout, near future lens, plays that Bumpsy, and then generous offer steals 2 more. Okay, cool.
Jeez. Um,
And I showed you
terrible.
Covetous Hema, Ghostfin, Volca on top.
How come you don't have any creatures still? Like, what's going on here?
You're gonna do
This
something
is
nasty to them. I don't know. I'm afraid to play them.
this is like I finally get like a hand of 4 here that I kind of want, and it's just all bad cards because, jeez, oh man. And now I have to discard the Savage Clash because I gotta like actually find good cards, and I gotta play my Earthbind on my own creature.
Oof. Oofa
Uh,
doofa.
yeah, seriously. Season 2 is off where we left off from season 1. Oh, well, I already told you I had it, so let's just get rid of it. Another near 2/2/2 hand.
Oofa. Okay, this is
This
cool.
is probably why I don't play this deck.
So Trench is gonna go to 4. It's gonna smash your Pismire. That's cool. We're going into Unfathomable, and I've got a Volca on top. Okay. So we're going to play this Hema. We're going to take the Amber and draw, I think. Yep. Amber and draw. Cool. And that's going to show Belligerent Guard. I don't think I want to play Belligerent Guards, so I'm going to draw and show a Hieron. Hieron's cool. Hieron's cool. I think we can do better. I think we do better. Dragnet's going to take an Amber, bounce my Unfathomable Dudes, replay Hema, Amber and draw to show us Guiltspine Netcaster. That's cool. Of course,
I have no chance. I'm not going to forge a key this game.
I did play out my dudes before this Sleep with the Fishes, and now I feel really silly. And I'm going to discard it. But okay, Press Gang on top currently, which I'm going to draw and reveal another Guiltspine? No. Belligerent Guard. The other Belligerent Guard's on top. Okay. Okay.
Another 2/2/2. This game's over.
Where's the borrow, my guy? What are you
I
doing?
have no idea. This is really, really embarrassing.
All right, so Trench is going to 5. I mean, Reap It Out seems pretty good.
You literally can't lose if you reap out.
Yeah, it feels pretty good, but do I kill your Octavia?
The Curia is out now.
Cura is out now. And I have on top. What do I have on top? Another guard? Yeah, another guard on top of the deck. Decision time. Well, not going to play my 5s, I guess. Yeah, we'll just reap it out. Purge a thing, tokenize the guard. I'm going to purge this Kretchy. Reap and exhaust your dude. Reap. And I revealed Befuddle. That's pretty cool. Befuddle seems good. You have 2 Savage Clashes? 1 Savage Clash.
That's hilarious. No, I had it from the early game, and you just never played creatures.
Amber, befuddle you into untamed. Okay.
Oh, well, that's what I wanted to play actually,
Right
but
into your trap.
I wouldn't call it a trap.
Okay, Vow of Blood on top of the deck for me.
That's literally the best turn I could muster right there. That's it.
Oofa doofa.
Oh, jeez, oh man. This is the worst draw I've played with this deck.
It's the curse of the stream, starting strong.
Yeah, I mean,
we're just gonna go back and stick with this stuff, I guess. And smash your Ludo, I suppose. Play this Vow of Blood off the top of my deck with Near Future Lens. No, it's not anymore. Oh, it's changed. It changed on me. Oh well.
well, it doesn't matter. I have all my Amber control left in my deck still, including Rad Pennies, Borrows, all that good stuff. Let's play the Cut Purse. Got a damage on Crab. Let's go with an Opportunist. A Mole for good measure. That sounds great. And then ping that guy. No way to stop you. GG.
Oof. GG.
What a brutal draw. Like, still left in deck are both Rad Pennies, the Borrow, my super busted Troop Call with 3 Amber and a Capture.
Ooh, Wild Bounty with that seems really cool.
I know. It happens. It does happen.
So you say.
Well, no Borrow. So much for science. And now we're done.
Hey, Quick Draw's like, okay, season 3, maybe we'll revisit.
Yeah.
Near Future Lens.
I'm just gonna like net deck for the rest of the season.
Well, how many peppers would you say this deck you played here is? It looks like a bunch of good cards in it. I do believe you got some rough draws there.
It's
little gimmicky?
I don't know. It's not gimmicky. It's just I got it as a Curia deck. It has some pretty good capture in it, especially with the Amphora, but it's very inconsistent with the low efficiency, and it doesn't have enough creature control to be a really good Curia deck. It has like the Savage Clash, which is not good synergy with Curia,
right?
And that's pretty much all it has. So yeah, there's some really cool stuff like the Double Red Penny and Double Seeker Needle, especially with Curia, and you can really like just when you get that engine going, you really bounce Amber around pretty quickly because you play the Red Pennies, you steal, then you capture on the Red Penny, and then you kill it with the Secret Needle, and you use Curia to send it to the opponent, and you shuffle it back into your deck, and you do it again next turn. So
Yep.
I don't know if I'd call it gimmicky, but it's just inconsistent, and it needs more creature control.
Mm-hmm. The Niffle, oh no, sorry, the Troop Call Wild Bounty seems pretty cool. I believe the inconsistency. The Rad Penny Secret Needle stuff is pretty cool. Yeah, I mean, I think if the Borrow came earlier, would have been very interesting.
That's what I should have manual moded.
Manual mode that Borrow. Manual mode that Borrow. Yeah.
Hey, Southerly Elf, welcome. He invaded the beginner game with our very unhackable password.
It's the Crusader's trick. The beginner games always show up at the top, and yeah, very very often don't even need a password because no one looks to join them.
No one even looks at it. It's always just closed. Yeah. So.
But cool. Yeah. So interesting. I don't know. I think the game kind of showed a bunch of what we were talking about, right? Like we saw Puzzling Trinket get to shift up, cycle that top card. We got see the token makers shifting around the top card. The draw pips coming.
We saw your opponent not care about what was in your hand.
We saw that too. I narrated specifically because
thank God you did. I would have had no idea.
I had a feeling. Yeah.
I
Uh,
wish that it highlighted it. Like, you know how TCO will sometimes highlight important notifications, like you can't reap next turn.
mhm.
I think it should highlight the top card, like what's revealed. I feel like that would make it a little bit more user friendly.
Yeah, I think you and this was kind of in the chat before too. I think you kind of have to. I think you have to embrace that playing digital Keyforge or just digital games generally is a just different medium than playing IRL. Like there's really no such thing as kind of ephemeral information, right? Like when you're playing over the board, I can show you a thing and then have it be on you to remember that later on. Um,
Hmm.
but I don't think that's really a thing online. That's not a thing online. I mean, you can get fancy. And when this card's implementation was initially being discussed, there were ideas out there like, well, what if we show like a flash on the prompt or a timed delay thing or something like that? And they kind of all got scrapped. I mean, it's just really hard to like walk the line between something that's going to be not super annoying versus possibly missed, right? Like you could have it show temporarily, uh, and then have it fade away after like a second or two, and have those just kind of stack up. But if you punk somebody and six flash by, that's tough. So what's the right time?
Yeah.
And you get into some very weird like, well, what's the right time limit, and what happens when people are on a different tab, and all this stuff.
Hmm. Might be kind of cool if, like in the top bar and the bottom bar, it shows like the top card of your discard, which is face up. It shows what's purged,
Mm-hmm.
and you can hover your mouse over that just to see it. If they added like a card tile there for the deck, that would let you. Normally, you wouldn't see anything. It would just be like just a card back.
Yeah,
But with NFL, if they had the top card just revealed, you could hover over it just to see the top card at any time. Um, and then it would just tell you what's drawn at the end of each turn. Like, or maybe it would tell you each time in the logs, so you can go back and see it, but at least have that like ability to see what's there right now without scrolling back up.
yeah. The see what's there right now to scroll back up would be cool. Actually, I've been delaying on actually doing this, but one of the things that uh, kind of had come up when we were doing the interludes was like, hey, there are a lot of folks who have concerns or questions about TCO's shuffling and mulliganing, and so I was
Murph, if Murph's still around, how do you feel about the TCO shuffler, Murph?
like, yeah, let us know. But I was like, well, maybe it'd be fun to do like a code review of the TCO mulligan procedures and um, uh, do some tests, just kind of just to see what actually comes out. And is like half of the half of the code on like take a mulligan and shuffle your deck is like near future lead and stuff. That was kind of funny because I'll pull it up. We'll do a quick preview here. It's in draft mode, so you can't actually get to here yet, most folks. But yeah, it's like, oh, if the top card is visible and you've got cards in your deck, then it tries to turn the top card face up and then everything else face down. This is after a shuffle. So if you're wondering, then why after a shuffle with near future lens out, you can only see the top card of your deck and everything else is face down. That's why. I think it's trying to do exactly what you're saying, but through a different route, like just have the top card be face up, but at the cost of now you can't see everything else in
Yeah.
the deck. And so they left as actually absolutely right. The TCO shuffler does use in a version of Fisher Yates. It kind of approximates human shuffling, but this will, I don't know, taking away some of the punchline of the post, but this is good stuff. So I don't know if I'd say Fisher Yates really does a great job of mimicking how humans shuffle. I do think that part of the reason why people grumble about TCO is TCO shuffler is that while it may be a true quote unquote shuffle, most folks when they're sitting down to play a game of Keyforge and take a mulligan are really not doing a true shuffle. And on top of that, when you look at a hand in TCO TCO is doing some sorting for you, like putting cards sorted by house, and then there's some sorting within house. So you're likely, if you have a card that's showing up in your hand again, to see it in a place that's close to where it was originally. And like having those fixed points in the hand, I think can kind of create the feeling of things not changing. But anyway.
You trying to gaslight Murph in his time on stream when he did a mulligan and he had the exact same 5 cards in his mulligan hand that he had in his previous hand, and then his
Hmm.
very first turn he drew the 6th card right away. I really think that the shuffle failed. I see what you're showing here, like the number of duplicates you get. I just straight up think that the shuffle failed. I think that the code was just like, oops, we forgot to shuffle, but here's a new hand and it's the same one.
I don't know. I don't know. I mean,
So what you're showing here is you ran some simulations, and for mulligan with the starting hand of 6, which is what Murph did, to get 5 duplicates happened 14 times out of a million, right?
14 times in a million. Yep.
You hear that, Murph?
14
That
in a
was
million.
14 in a million chance of that happening.
Oh wow! But I've opened over 100 WoW decks, and I've opened 0 Legacy Maverick Eden jars. So I don't know.
I've opened like 700 Keyforge decks and one good deck. So
There you go.
how do you explain that?
Yeah. How do you explain that? But yeah, those are the numbers, and that kind of came through from the simulations. So yeah, and they essentially foot with what you'd expect things to be. That's interesting though. If it's on stream, I'd be curious to.
Oh, it's
Uh,
there. Yeah.
it's there.
It's it's wild. It's let the
Hey.
conspiracy theories fly, man. It's all right there.
Yeah, the Italians open some spicy decks. They do for sure. They do
Well,
for
they have
sure.
to open Italian decks for me because the Italian decks, it's not just the Italian people opening them, it's the Italian language that makes them good.
Extra spicy. Extra
Yeah.
spicy.
Spicy meatballs.
Spicy indeed. I don't know. I mean, were there lots of duplicates in the deck? Does that help too?
No, it was Judge, his favorite deck. It doesn't have a ton of dupes. Um,
Mm,
I mean, and it was like all cards that I don't think are duplicated. I mean, I'll find the link for you again.
yeah,
It,
I'd
it
be
is
curious.
is saved for all of history until you know, the people that run TCO in the dark room with cigars go in there into the internet and hack YouTube and remove that video for the rest of time to hide their secret.
Yeah, interesting. Interesting. I don't. Yeah, I don't think I would get on board with like, oh, it just forgot to shuffle. Um,
You're more on board with the 14 in a million?
I think I'm probably more on board with 14 in a million. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, unless something's had super changed. Um,
Can you do some fancy math? And so for that 14 in a million, what are the odds that your first turn you draw 3 cards, you draw one of the other 3 that was in your original hand?
you draw. Oh, sorry. Give it to me one more time.
Okay, so he had an opening hand of 6 cards
Mm-hmm.
and he mulliganed, and he ended up drawing I think a 2-2-1 hand, and it was the same 5 cards that he had before minus Key Frog, and he played 2 cards on turn 1 and drew 3 more cards at the
Mm-hmm.
end of the first turn, and one of those 3 that he drew was Key Frog, which means that there is like a 1 in 3 chance that the order of the top 6 was exactly the same after the mulligan. Or
Mm.
rather, it had the same 6 cards. It wasn't the exact order, but it was the same 6 cards in the top 6 slots.
Right.
Um, but it could have been, the Key Frog could have been card 7 or card 8.
Could have been
We don't
card
know.
7 or 8. Yes, it could have been. It could have been.
But what are the odds, though, that like your simulation was if you mulligan with 6, what are the odds you get 5 the same? Can you take that simulation one step further and see what are the odds that you find that 6th card in the first 3 cards of your deck?
In the first 3 cards, we could. We could. It's a little bit like.
So it's 14 in a million, and then there is a 1 in 12 chance of that happening. Is that
Yeah.
correct?
a 1
So
in 12 chance of that happening, given that you did draw
given that you
those
are
three
that
cards.
14 in a million, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what does that put it at?
Uh,
How do you calculate?
14 in a
I
million
always forget this.
divided by well 1 in 3. We'll do it out. I don't want to do it on stream here because I'll make sound something really silly. But we'll do it out. We'll
Divide,
put it in the article. If we have that actually, if you
it,
have that exact if you have that exact one, I'll put as an example. Pull it from the stream. But it'd be like times a 1 in 3 thing.
so it's pretty close to 1 in a million then.
Pretty close. 14 in a million's already pretty close to 1 in a million. But yeah, you're getting there. You're getting there. Interesting. I mean, if you say what are the chances that it's one of the top 3, that's different than saying, hey, I've got these 3 as a given thing. The chances that the key frog was actually the one on top. Yeah. Drawing from a deck of 3 versus 36. Because if you say I've got the 14 in a million, and then I've got one more draw, so I've got how many cards in deck? 31. So it's a 1 in 31. Yeah. So 14 times 1/36. 1/36. Yeah. Ooh, something with the Take Mulligan event. Maybe Slowly Elf is saying there could be something weird going on here. Because quick draw. There's some. Where was I going with that before? There's not a whole lot happening in TCO's Take Mulligan method, right? There's like, it reduces your hand, or gets your hand size, puts all the cards back on top of the deck, shuffles the deck, draws you back to your starting hand size, and then kind of sets a flag to say you've taken a mulligan. That's it. And you could say, oh, like what if it just skips shuffling, puts the cards back, draws them back again? I don't think that's a thing. I don't think that's a thing. That's more tantamount to saying, I mean, more likely that the shuffle produced the same top 6 or 7 cards than we just kind of skipped that step in the code. But
let me see here.
Yeah.
I can't find the link now. I know I posted it. I'm having trouble finding it.
Or said another way, I find it very unlikely that you end up with a hand of 1 fewer cards without having shuffled the deck. Just with how it's set up here.
I'm gonna find that link.
All right.
And I'm gonna share it.
Find the link. I'll be curious to see it.
I will not sleep until I find it.
Fair. I'll probably sleep before you find it.
I don't know. I know I posted this recently, so I gotta just figure out how to do searches in Discord again.
I remember talking about it, but yeah, and TCO uses, as Slowly Elf had pointed out, like a version of the Fisher-Yates algorithm, which is like essentially industry standard, and it doesn't even like the shuffle your deck code isn't even TCO written code. It uses a third-party library, which is super popular, kind of battle hardened type thing that we can also look at the code for. That's here too, where if there was an issue with the shuffling that it's producing, we would have heard about it, not first on TCO. Yeah.
Man.
But anyway.
All right.
Anyway, we'll see. To be continued.
We'll see.
It'll be fun one to put together. I'd love to put a reference to that in there, because that would be fun, a fun anecdote, and we could give Mirth the laurel of the 1 in a million laurel.
I'm pretty sure that there is a clip that he made as well. It might be on his Twitch page.
Okay, I'll ping Mirth for that one too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, better luck next week for me. Well, better luck in 2 weeks. I won't be here next week.
Yeah, indeed. We should get like a big board in the team lounge and
No, we're
have
good. We don't need that.
have the score.
No, I'm good.
Curse of the Stream starts off not disappointing. But
I
all right,
mean, to be fair, we play in league matches, and I don't beat you in league matches either. I only beat you in casuals.
I'm trying to think of the last league match that we played. Oh, we played. Okay, we played
We
in
played in ABR. We played the Villains of Tyranny. Um, we I don't remember what else, but probably a few.
it's been some. There's been some CAG encounters. I think we've mostly split those. Are you?
Oh, good reference there. We will be playing each other in Kagi this season.
Yeah, yeah. We're in the
We're in the
same
same
pod.
pod. Yeah.
Murph knew that I was gonna cast doubt on his TCO shuffler theories, and out of spite, put us in the same pod.
That's the conspiracy theory.
Nice. And yeah, we'll have some looming NKFL matchups at some point. Sure, I'm sure.
I have to get out of silver first. You're still in gold, right?
I believe so. I'll have to double check.
Yeah. I need to go 3-0 with some blowouts to get out of silver. So we'll see. Not super confident in that happening in my last match.
We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. Okay. So the Leo still talking about shufflers.
Yeah, I'll take a look. I have the shuffle deck code pulled up, but I'm gonna take a look at what Subtly Elf's saying too. Would not want to miss something, for sure. So cool.
All
I'll
right.
take a look. Yeah, Subtly Elf, give me the file and line number you're looking at. I'll pull it up on my end after the stream here and take a look. Cool. Alrighty. Alrighty.
Thanks for the game. Thanks everybody for watching and listening.
Well, and listening.
They can't hear me though. They're not listening anymore.
Right on. Cool. Thanks everybody, and we'll see you around the Sloppy Lab.
See you next week.
Bye, y'all.